Okay. Oh, so now I have to really behave.
Yeah, see, you went to sleep at 11. I started my outside at 11. We were outside until 8:30 at night.
What? What are you doing? Yeah.
Well, we are a hot family, so as soon as it gets hot, we go outside.
Mm, mm. Yes. What you
Yep.
doing?
So
Mm.
wait until he gets 5. He won't care about the weather.
I just want him outside. I kind of feel that way now. He's got so much energy. So much energy.
Times that by 2.
Oh, I feel for you. I feel for you. I feel for you. Maybe I will
Yeah.
take a visit to the Canada, Canada, no, Canada Lake, which is a Great Finger Lake. For those that are just joining us um, while waiting, we just learned that Canada Lake in New York is a Great Finger Lake. It's one of the Finger Lakes. Um, and so she said, I'm still, she's saying I'm still mispronouncing it. Okay. Canada Canada is one of the Great Finger Lakes. This is something I did not know. And maybe I will go and let Jeremy run around. At least it'll have a beautiful view and he can run around and extend all of his energy. My goodness.
Just start him on a bike early.
Oh, here's
That helps.
that was a good last time. Thanks. You know, here's the problem though, Travis. This is another secret. I'm telling all my secrets right now. I do not know how to ride a bike. Don't know about
That's
that.
gonna make it hard. That's gonna make it hard to teach him how to ride a bike.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think I'm gonna
Hello.
have to turn it over. Hey,
Hey.
how
All
you
right.
doing?
Good. Good.
We're just getting
Posting
started,
out to
or
the chat for everyone because I guess there was an issue with the link that went out. We didn't realize there was a copy and paste issue from last week's webinars, and so I had asked everyone if you were able to log in through the emailed link, or did you guys all go to the website to find a link? Because it looks like there's fewer people than usual here, and I'm wondering if that was the issue. But I didn't know if a corrected email went out to people. If somebody could just respond to my question. If any of you guys did get in through the email, I would just like to know that because we have to fix it for Friday's lecture too. Don't all be shy.
No, one client said that she got it through the email.
Oh,
My my
good.
my Finger Lake lady.
Oh, okay. Okay. Somebody did through the email. Okay, good. Because I didn't know exactly what the typo was, but there was some issue. So, oh, use my email. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. Good, good, good. So,
It
well,
could just be that nobody wants to hear me talk.
no, 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 no. I think it's also early. So let's give people another few minutes.
I've been
Oh,
ranting. Another patient said she got it through the email. Another client said she got it through the email as well.
good.
Another attendee. I'll call them
Sure.
attendees. I'm not calling them patients or clients. It's weird.
Kara, is this your home email or your home office?
Yeah.
This is very official looking, I have to say. I'm impressed. I feel like everyone is in makeshift rooms. If you saw Dr. Berger's talk on Friday, he's like in a bedroom.
Yeah.
I think
I was
Dr. Talon's broadcasting from a couch. You can like she's just casually there with her feet up on a coffee table.
Yeah, I was telling everybody I live with my parents. Not that my parents live with me. I live with my parents. And so my dad, um, this was his office. And so um, when I started working for Rockville Internal Medicine Group, he moved his office because usually he's at work, like before the pandemic and everything like that. He's usually at his job and he has like an office, and that's usually where he spends most of his time. So he gave me his, he had a closet. That's his make, that's his makeshift office. I feel horrible because like I'm living with them, but I got the nicer office. Oh, yeah, it's sad. It's
All
sad.
right, well, let's get started because if people join, they can just come a couple minutes late. So those of you guys who have tuned in before, which is probably a good number of you by now, I'm Dr. Tanno. I am moderating these webinars. We're doing our best to get as many out to you as possible, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to keep you guys, keep you guys company, one, but also keep you engaged with the practice, remind you that we're still here, we're still working, we're still doing virtual visits, even though it seems like we're miles away. And Friday's lecture is going to be Dr. McConnon, who is he's a pulmonologist with further training in sleep medicine. He's going to talk about sleep apnea. I asked them to show some photos. I don't know if they will. I'm not sure how they coordinated this, but I did ask them to show some photos of we have a full sleep lab in our clinic, and it's just really impressive. Like, I never been there because I mostly do, primary care, but every time I go in there, it's four basically full hotel rooms, and they look like hotel rooms, and they're just down a hallway in our office. And every time I walk in there, it just blows my mind that space exists. So I did ask them to show some photos. I don't know if they will. But anyway, so it's Dr. McConnon. He's going to talk about sleep apnea. He spoke a few weeks ago about insomnia, if any of you guys had seen that lecture. And that should be a good one. And then for next week, we're still trying to figure out final details. So I'll be in touch with you guys on Friday about that. And then I guess there was some issue with the email that went out this week about the links. So if you ever have issues, our website is updated easily. We can't recall emails, so that's a little more challenging if something's wrong there. But check if you're ever having any issues with logging in, look at the website and click on the COVID webinars, and you should be able to access the link there. So today we
Ooh, one of our attendees said that she had several sleep studies at RIMG and the accommodations are fabulous. So, I mean, I'm just literally reading what she wrote.
I know, it's actually like, I wish we could give tours of it because I think it was a selling point for me to join the practice a few years ago, interviewed there, even though I have zero affiliation with the sleep lab, but it's just a neat space. So today we have an exciting treat, a little bit of a mix-up from our normal lectures. Dr. Holmes here, who has been keeping you guys company for the last few minutes. Dr. Holmes joined the practice in February. And immediately everybody noticed that she is a great personality. And I thought it would be amazing if I think she could have a whole radio morning, a talk show in the morning on any radio, but I offered to give her a webinar spot here to talk about whatever she wished. And so she wanted to talk about some real-time questions about alcohol. So today she's going to talk about this, and feel free to ask all of your questions, any and all. She will answer them to the best of her ability. If I can chime in too if there's other questions, but I have a feeling that you might be more useful than me in this. And then we'll see how things go. So keep it going, keep the flow going, keep the questions going. I'll let her get started.
Okay. So welcome everybody. Yeah, it's me. I tend to talk a lot. So if you want to interject, please interject, speak up, say something, flag, raise your hand, all that kind of good stuff. But I wanted to do this talk. So first, let me get down to brass tacks. First thing first. It's called Coffee with Kharia, but I'm not drinking coffee. I'm actually drinking tea. Usually around this time, I switch to decaf tea with a little bit of cream and sugar, English style. So I have my tea with me. But I wanted to talk about alcohol, and I wanted to have a frank discussion about alcohol. And the reason why I wanted to have a frank discussion is because whenever I'm talking to patients and we're doing the interview and I'm asking what's considered the social history questions like how much do you smoke, how often, how much alcohol you drink, invariably, I always get patients who seem to have to, they feel the need to explain why they drink, and how much they drink, and to kind of justify and make sure that I know that they are not drinking too much. And so I asked one of my patients, like, what do you think I'm looking for? What do you think I'm asking? Especially during this quarantine time, it's always funny. Patients like, I'm drinking more than normal, but I think we all are because none of us are driving. Hopefully, not that we should all be drinking. Let me clarify that, but I think we're all drinking more than we normally usually do, because we are inside more. We're not as active. We're not doing things out. And not that we're becoming dependent or misusing alcohol, but usually if you're driving, you're going to be less likely to imbibe, so, following rules and regulations and things like that. So I thought it would be a good idea for us to have a frank discussion and also to give you my take on what I think about the alcohol regulations. So let's first start off with what is considered a standard drink. And I got you. I see the question about how much alcohol is too much for a female age 75. We'll get there. So a standard drink is considered a 12 ounce of regular beer, which has about 5%, 6%, depending on the beer, alcohol content, alcohol per volume, 5 ounces of wine, which I'm just going to be real honest. That's like a sip. Okay. So 5 ounces of wine, and then 1.5 ounces of spirits. So, like, that's your tequila, that's your vodka, that's your gin, that's your peach pucker. As you can see, I know a little bit about alcohol. So, that usually has about a 40% alcohol content. Now, the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism developed some guidelines that we as practitioners utilize to really kind of determine and frame whether or not patients might have an issue with misuse, abuse of alcohol. So under the age of 65, supposedly men are not allowed to have more than 4 drinks per day and no more than 14 drinks per week. So if you do some quick math, which I'm not good at, 4 drinks per day. So if you have 4 drinks per day times 7, that definitely equals more than 14 drinks per week. So it doesn't mean that you can have 4 drinks every day and still be considered the norm. For women, I guess it has something to do with our metabolism, even though I swear I think it's a double standard. We're not supposed to have more than 3 drinks per day and then no more than 7 drinks per week. I just have to pause on that, just meditate on that a little bit, because I really just think that that's not fair. But that's what they've determined. So then we look at if you're over the age of 65, and this gets me because as a geriatrician, or someone who did a geriatric fellowship. I can't call myself a geriatrician because I didn't do the fellowship. I mean, I didn't do the test, yada, 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 yada. But as someone who studied geriatrics, it gets really frustrating to me how we treat our elderly population. But above 65, for men, you're not supposed to have more than 2 drinks per day and no more than 7 drinks per week. And for women, no more than 1 drink per day and no more than 7 drinks per week. So to answer your question, supposedly for a female, over the age of 65, if you have 2 drinks a day or at one particular time, that is considered too much. So I'm going to let that kind of sink in. So when we're asking questions about your alcohol use as providers, we're using those as guidelines. We're really trying to get an understanding of how much you're using and how often, because what we're looking for is misuse and abuse. We're looking to see, do you need a drink to get up every morning? Are you drinking throughout the day? Are you drinking in excess? Can you go without having a drink? If so, what happens? Do you find that you use alcohol as a crutch? Are you using alcohol to get through something? Those are kind of the things that we're looking for. Also, what we're looking for is anyone else in your family ever been concerned about your drinking? And if so, why? So I wanted to say that to let people know that when we ask the question about alcohol, we're not asking because we think that you're an alcoholic or that you have an alcohol problem, but what we are is we're trying to help you determine where you are on the spectrum. So personally, I feel that the key thing is when you are looking at yourself, if you think that you have a problem, if you think that you are imbibing in too much alcohol, do you know the resources that are out there and available for you to utilize? So there's Alcoholics Anonymous that you can utilize. There's a group such as Moderation Management. There's even a group for women. I think it's called Sober Women, or Women of Sobriety, or Women for Sobriety. So there are resources and tools out there that if you think that a loved one has a problem, that you can definitely point them to. So that's what the guidelines say. So what does Dr. Holmes think? Or I don't know if you really even care, but I do. So for me, when I look and I'm talking with my patients, I'm really kind of homing in on the stuff when I ask them that question, the stuff that they say to justify. So if a patient tells me, oh, I had one patient tell me, yeah, I'm drinking a little more than usual. Okay, well, what is that? And then she ended up telling me that she has a little bit of Bailey's Irish cream in her coffee on the weekends. I was like, okay, well, how is that more than usual? And she said, well, usually I'm up and, I'm out the door and I have this, 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 this. But since I'm not able to go out because of the pandemic, I've been having coffee at home. And so I put a little Bailey's. So that's not a problem. That's not an issue to be concerned about for misuse. It's basically you're availing yourself of the opportunity that you're at home. And so you're drinking responsibly and not driving. However, if I'm talking to a patient and they're telling me that they're drinking a little more than usual, and I say, okay, well, what's going on? And then they begin to tell me that they're having, a drink in the morning. Why? Well, because there's nothing better else to do. Well, okay, but do you have to have that drink? Well, yeah. So then, we start delving into that. So that's what I have so far. Anybody got any questions? No? All right, Eleanor.
Still waiting, but I was going to say I was halfway expecting for you to say that you're not drinking coffee, you're drinking some kind of cocktail in that cup.
Dr. Tanno, I'm going to make a post because there's a lot of questions that are coming directly towards me.
Oh.
So I'm going to switch over to a post.
Can you copy and paste them into the chat or send me a quick email with them?
Yeah.
So I was going to say that, but I figured people didn't know me like that. And since I am seeing patients virtually this afternoon, I didn't want anybody to think that I was actually drinking on the job, which is not allowed and would show misuse.
Okay. Okay, so when you guys send questions, it looks like you had been sending them to the host, which is Travis, who is wonderful. He's our IT support person on these calls, so he's not the best to answer alcohol questions, or maybe he is.
It's surprising.
Anyway, so send them through the chat, and then I think Travis said he's going to send me a quick email with whatever's come in if they've come through. So
let me ask you a question, Dr. Tanno. Have you noticed that your alcohol consumption has gone up since we've been quarantined?
Well, that's a complicated question. And I'm not sure exactly who is on this call, and I might regret this, but I am actually pregnant. And you just haven't seen me to know that I am due. I am very pregnant. I am 20. So I'm August. So I have not increased my alcohol use during this quarantine.
Wait, whoa. Oh my goodness. We just got Major T on Coffee with Kharia's webinar. Are you serious? I had no freaking idea.
Yeah, it's just, no one's seen me in the office because I've been working from home, but it's not a secret. It's just no one's been around to make.
Congratulations.
Anyway, so no, to answer your question, I have not been drinking more. Although I will say that in our house, the content of the alcohol has changed because it's summertime and it's warm. I would say there's a lot less like normal stuff and much more like summer shandies and those kinds of things.
Okay. Like I put on the thing, I was going to talk about my favorite drink. So I've had to get creative during the quarantine, and actually for Mother's Day, my mother actually, I refrained from regular, hold on, I'm sorry. I'll tell that story in a minute. Okay, so I refrained from regular alcohol use. However, on occasion I have a glass of honey wine, and unfortunately I resorted to that during the pandemic. I do worry about doing that though. Okay, so I'm going to say I get that question a lot from patients, like in regards to when I have the frank discussion with them regarding alcohol, is being concerned about their medications. And definitely that is something that I would encourage you to talk to your provider about. I'm one of those people, as you can see, I'm really not the typical doctor. I don't think of myself, I'm a little off the wall. And I just feel as though as a human being, there are so few things that we can enjoy. It's like as doctors, we say, don't eat a lot of fat, don't, eat a lot of fried foods and things like that. I really believe in moderation. And so what I tell my patients is, if I don't tell you not to drink with this particular medication, go ahead. Because I usually do a very thorough medication reconciliation. And I tell them, if I don't tell you you can't drink, then go on ahead and drink. But if there is concern for a synergistic effect between some medications, for example, like your sleeping medications, whether it's even over-the-counter stuff or even Ambien and things like that, there is concern that there can be a synergistic effect that can cause a lot of CNS motor depression and kind of slow things down. So you do have to be careful. So have a conversation with your doctor. I love it when patients come to me and they're like, okay, Dr. Holmes, these are the medicines I'm on. I got a party coming up and I want to drink. Help me figure this out. I will do it. I love to help you figure out how to take your medicines and drink, because you have to live your life and you have to be able to enjoy yourself. And so living a life of fear and not being able to enjoy a social gathering where somebody may offer you a glass of wine or offer you, a daiquiri or a cosmopolitan or a beer, it just sucks. So, talk to your provider and have a frank discussion. I think I can say for all the providers, save one, at Rockville Internal Medicine Group, they'll all sit down with you and help you figure it out. And the one I'm thinking of probably won't, and that's just because he's busy.
All right, so we
The burger.
have 2 questions that came in that got copied and pasted. So you're talking a lot about moderation. patient pointed out, how do you judge moderation as an individual perception? So when you say everything in moderation, a lot of people, they feel a little bit unsure of what, or I guess insecure in their own judgment of what that means.
So I would start off by using the guidelines that I gave at the beginning regarding the number of drinks per day as a baseline for moderation. So for example, for women, you know how I feel about that, Dr. Tanno. For women under the age of 65, we're supposedly allowed to have 4 drinks at a particular time. So me, is that me? Oh, I heard some feedback. Sorry. So for me, I have to be concerned thinking moderation is those 3 drinks maybe plus 1. So for example, if you have 2 glasses of wine with dinner and then you have a port or 2, for dessert, you've got your 4 drinks and that's good. If you're having a long celebration and it's, going from, like Memorial Day, weekend from 12 to, 12 at night, over the course of that evening, how many drinks would you normally imbibe? And that I consider as moderation. So for me, moderate alcohol use for male or female is about 4 drinks during like a celebration or celebratory time. So that's kind of how I look at the word moderation or moderate.
Okay. And then I guess this is sort of a similar question, but can you describe the difference between alcohol abuse and alcohol misuse?
Great question. So there is a difference, and to me, it's almost like a subtle difference. Alcohol misuse is where you're using alcohol in deference to a problem. So, for example, the person who is drinking because there's nothing better else to do because of boredom, depression, anxiety, something where you're trying to self-medicate suggests to me a sign of there's misuse of the alcohol because you're not using it because you enjoy the taste. You're using it to try to medicate a problem. Now, it kind of can cross over into abuse where it's something that you cannot live without, where you are doing that day in and day out and you cannot give it up or you have a hard time giving it up. Do you understand what I'm saying, Dr. Tanner? Do you agree?
Yes, what I was going to say there is a lot of people who abuse, go into the abuse category or sort of verge between misuse and abuse is exactly, they're using it to self-medicate some kind of condition. A lot of people who have problems with alcohol have underlying anxiety. So, they use it to sort of, take the edge off, but more than, be considered normal, take the edge off on a Friday afternoon, kind of take the edge off. Yeah, I think you covered it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, I have this comment from an attendee that says it would be great if drinking were not aligned in society with a way to relieve stress. Ideally, we need to think of other ways to get the same quote unquote high, which we think will come from a drink. I haven't figured out what that is though. You're absolutely right. Like we do tend to associate, it's kind of like back in the 40s, the 50s, where, you would smoke, stress and smoke, and that, kind of fell out of favor. We do need to find different ways to manage our stress. So, I don't go to alcohol, and I don't think anyone should go to alcohol solely for a stress reliever. You should drink alcohol the way you like to drink coffee, or the way you like to drink juice, or the way you like to drink Gatorade, or, a cup from Starbucks. It should be something that's more enjoyable for the taste of it, less from the effect that you get.
I think it also, in terms of, what you could use as a replacement for alcohol to take that edge off, I think it depends also on who you are with. Because if you go for dinner and you're with 4 other people and they all, we all have those friends who they'll drink, 3 times the amount of wine as you might. They between 2 of them, they'll easily split a bottle of wine on a Tuesday night, kind of a pair of friends. And so if you're looking for alternative activities to do, you might be a little bit of who do you surround yourself with? Because I think you could probably get a little bit of that stress relief from, some people do it from like a good workout or conversation with a friend or a good laugh. Like if you do a book club that really gets you engaged and thinking. I think the high exists elsewhere, but it's very hard to get it if you're at, say, a dinner table where other people are ordering bottles of wine and splitting them, because then you're just the odd man out.
Yeah. Now, some did mention that if people were concerned about sugar, carb, calorie intake, is there a website that describes what are the values for specific liquors? I am sure there is, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know because I don't care. And that's just me. That's nothing against you. That's nothing against anybody that's watching their diet. Like that's very, very important. But I'm just going to say like alcohol in and of itself is higher in content of caloric intake and things like that. So that's why I really don't focus on it, because if I'm really watching my diet, I'm definitely going to cut out alcohol just because I don't want those unnecessary calories, just like I'm going to cut out Coke, just like I'm going to cut out my tea, just like I'm going to cut out, sometimes my coffee with my creamer, my sugar. So I really don't look, but I'm going to look up that and I'll let you know.
And I think a lot of the extra sugar sometimes comes from mixers. So you might think you're being healthier because you chose liquor over, say, a carb heavy beer, and then you go ahead and you add, 12 ounces of regular Coke to that. Some more questions here. Do you want me to read them out loud, Kharia?
There was another question. Does the percentage of alcohol in a beer make a difference on the number of drinks? Example, Michelob Ultra versus Sam Adams. In other words, is it okay to have 4 Sam Adams, or can you drink much more Ultra?
Haven't we all made this calculation somewhere on a raft or a boat some weekend?
Yes. They're like, okay, so the alcohol content is low. I think you have to look at the alcohol content and how it affects you, and particularly when you're looking at how it may affect your medications. But I think when you're looking at it from the standpoint of moderation, I think it's more from not necessarily the alcohol content, in so much as, for me, the moderation comes in how much are you drinking. So for example, like, yeah, you can have like, a 6-pack of Michelob Ultra, but that's still a 6-pack, yo. you know, and you could have, like a Sam Adams. To me, I think it's just more from the total mass, not necessarily the percentage.
Yeah, there are, beers out there that are 8-9% alcohol. And one of those, if you drink it in 30 minutes, will get you probably as buzzed as 3 of the lighter beers over say an hour and a half. Here's an interesting question. How do you as a clinician view alcohol poisoning? This occurs not often in an alcoholic, but often in college-age kids.
It frustrates me, to be honest, alcohol poisoning, because I think it then comes into play with lack of moderation. It's not necessarily, again, it's not necessarily how much you're drinking. To me, it's how much you're consuming in such a short period of time. And I'm not gonna lie, and I'll probably be fired from Rockville Internal Medicine Group, But when I was younger, Dr. Tanno's like, what is she about to say? But when I was younger, when I was a kid, when I was in college, yeah, of course you went to parties and, you tried to, drink, more. I don't know why. I really, when I think back on it, it wasn't even peer pressure, because I don't do the whole peer pressure thing. It was just, I really don't know. I can't place at this point like why it is I did it. But like I know that I drank more than I should have at that particular point in time, and I got sick. Didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that, but I got nauseous and I threw up, and that put me off alcohol for a long time just because it, it had that effect on me. Um, and so I think it's how much you're drinking in a shorter period of time. And when I look back on, I'm like, okay, I was not doing moderation. I wasn't doing moderation. I was trying to keep up with so and so because we were doing this game, and it was a game that we were doing and playing. So I guess maybe it was peer pressure, but not peer pressure. But anyway, so that was a game that we were playing and a thing that we were doing. And so I was trying to keep up with her and she was trying to outdo me. And so I definitely drank more than I could tolerate. And I knew it. My body responded. I got dizzy. I got lightheaded. I didn't feel well. I didn't feel nauseous. And I ignored those signs that my body was telling me. And I kept pushing forward. This is one of those times where you just don't push forward. You listen to your body. Your body will truly, truly tell you. And this is where it becomes really important, not, but still at the same time becomes important not to drink and drive, because your body will tell you when it can't tolerate anymore. It'll tell you when it can't handle anymore, but it will not tell you if you're impaired as far as your vision and your reflexes. It doesn't. Your body will get sick and be like, I cannot take any more liquor. I don't want any more. But as far as your ability to discern, do I feel safe with driving? Am I safe with driving? It really, your body isn't set up or designed like that. You may feel completely fine and feel like you're safe to drive, but according to our limit, you're not. And according to the studies, you're not. And so that's why it's really important to me that people do not drink and drive. I don't.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of the question about alcohol poisoning in, say, young people versus an alcoholic, which I don't really like that name, alcoholic. It's not, it's a label. But people who struggle with alcoholism, they've built a tolerance. So I'm sure Dr. Holmes can would agree with me. When sometimes in the hospital as residents, we would admit these patients for alcohol withdrawal, people who decided that they to withdraw from drinking and they wanted to do it abruptly, and so they could have terrible side effects. And these are people who have 10, 20 plus drinks a day, and when you could have an entire conversation with these people, and then you would get the blood results back on what their blood alcohol content is. And in Maryland, the legal limit is 0.08 to be driving. And some of these patients, I remember I admitted a man, I got his whole family history. He was completely pleasant, normal conversation, didn't seem at all intoxicated. His blood came back at 0.45. That is an enormous amount of alcohol. So with the people who are used to drinking alcohol, they have a tolerance, and so they don't have alcohol poisoning often because they've built this tolerance. Whereas your college kids, when they go off, they've never had, I wouldn't say never, but they probably never had a ton of alcohol at once. And so when they go out to a party, their first, their big first Halloween, whatever it is that they're going out for, and they have 8, 10 drinks, for them, that's a very different kind of intake. And that's what results in the poisoning compared to a person is used to drinking. So usually, for those of you who might have young college, young kids or high school kids who are going off, I have a talk with all of my college students before they go off, and I say, you're going to go to college, there's going to be parties, you're going to drink probably, and I know that the normal amount, even for women in college, binge drinking is a big thing on a lot of college campuses, and it is not uncommon for women to drink on a college campus. I would say anywhere from 4 to 8 up to 10, 12 drinks when they're out. That's a ton of drinks. So what I tell my new students is, the students who are going off, is take it slow. The first couple times, learn your tolerance. See how you feel after 2 drinks, after 3 drinks, after 4 drinks. Don't just rush it all and take 6 shots in 1 hour, because then you don't have any kind of gauge of how that's going to make you feel. And then the other thing I say is, it's obvious in this day and age, but don't drive when you're drinking. your drinks, who puts things in your drinks. You hear all these terrible cases of date rape drugs. Be aware of who purchased that drink for you. Where did it come from? Always keep an eye on your drink. Don't put it down on a bar and walk away and come back and drink it again. You're better off throwing out the $6 beer or however much you spent. Maybe it's a $2 beer, depending on what college night it is. You're better off throwing it away than drinking and getting in trouble for somebody put something in it. You just don't know. And so that's sort of with the younger people with the alcohol poisoning versus somebody who is more used to alcohol, kind of why we see that so commonly. And that would be the counseling that I would give them around it.
Yeah. I know when I went off to college, I mean, my parents did, I think, a very good job of, educating me and, allowing me to find out what my tolerance was. I hope nobody tries to pick them up because, I wasn't 21 yet, or what would be considered my tolerance level. So when I was lucky when I went to school, I kind of knew what my tolerance was and what I could handle. But we always had those frank conversations. So yeah, that's great advice, Dr. Tanno. I have one attendee says, I've seen study results that conclude people who consume small amounts of alcohol are healthier or live longer than people who do not drink any alcohol. And we've seen those studies. It kind of goes either way. Particularly I think with red wine, it's considered like a healthy alcohol to imbibe in. There's another comment. When I think of having a glass of wine to reduce anxiety or self problems will exist after, which usually stops me. Unfortunately, with my once a week glass of wine, I feel like I shouldn't take meds that night. So again, I would encourage you, Miss X, who shall not be named, talk with your primary care provider about what medications you're taking, because you could be foregoing those medications and there's no reason that you should. So talk to your provider and see, is it really necessary to forego those medications at the nighttime? And then there's another, I was in a citizens class, the county police department this year, and we saw people drink various amounts in person and saw their functioning ability. Yes, it is scary. It is scary, like how little alcohol can have major effects on your ability to drive. That's why I really say, do not drink and drive. I'm sorry. This comment, interesting that liquor stores were considered essential businesses during the pandemic.
I saw their sales. I saw an article that their sales were up. I think it was like 22% for this month. It was some high number.
Yeah. Well, where I'm from in Texas, they they allowed you to carry. So like, for example, if you went to a store to pick up like a restaurant to pick up food, you can actually get liquor to go as well. Texas does not play.
I know that's like the drive-by. In New Orleans, they have drive-by. The shakes with the alcohol, daiquiris. That's it. So yes. Council said New Orleans had the drive-through daiquiri shops. Yeah, see, we've all been there. Are there any other questions? Anything else somebody's interested in asking us about alcohol? Any questions? What's like one question you get, Dr. Holmes, from patients about alcohol? I'm trying to think what people ask me.
What's the one question I get?
Yeah, what is a common question that you get from patients on alcohol?
Usually it's when I prescribe antibiotics and it says like don't drink, or if the medicine says don't drink with this medication, and that's when I usually tell them I'm never going to give you something and tell you not to drink. Like if I give you something where you really truly can't drink, I'll tell you don't drink and drink this and take this medication. I'll get that one, and then the other one I get is like from my patients that know me, like really know me. What am I drinking? What's the new thing on my in my bar? Those are the patients that really, really know me. Because I try to change it up. I try to change it up just because, you know, you want to try and experiment with new things and different wines. And I'm really trying, I'm trying to become a wine connoisseur. We have such wonderful in Maryland wineries like Eleanor wines that we can actually drive to. So I'm really trying to enlarge my wine palette because I really, you know,
I feel like wine culture has become very big in the last few years. Just before we sort of maybe start wrapping up here in the next few minutes, if somebody is interested in decreasing their alcohol intake, what, you know, depending on how severe of intake they're using, what kind of resources and what kind of guidance would you give them if they're interested in cutting back or stopping?
That's a great question. So, depending on the severity, I usually tell patients if you've ever gone through delirium tremors or any type of adverse effect, if you've kind of stopped drinking for a little while and you started developing the shakes or you had a seizure, you are someone that I would say you need to talk with your provider or get into an inpatient or an outpatient rehab because not necessarily that I'm more concerned of damage that you could do quickly by just quitting cold turkey. So those are patients that I actually recommend that they get involved in an inpatient rehab or they talk to their provider about quitting in a formalized manner. There are resources available to um, get more information about cutting down on your alcohol use, you know, through AA and things like that. Um, I always say it how I recommend it with cigarettes is start somewhere and cut. So, for example, you know, my patients who have a cigarette, when I tell patients who drink a heavy amount and that they're concerned is, okay, look at how many drinks you drink a night. So if you drink 10 drinks a night, drink 9 and do that for a week to 2 weeks. And then after you master that 9, cut it down by 1 to 8 and go stepwise as long as when you stop drinking that you don't have any adverse effects. That would be the way that I would counsel patients to if they're concerned that they're drinking too much to start off. The other thing that I would recommend is that you look into why and figuring out why. And if you can't, get yourself in to see a behavioral health therapist. Our therapists are great at helping tease apart and tease out the reasons of why we might be drinking more than what's considered normal or more than what we feel we should be, whether it's you're self-medicating for depression, anxieties, grief, or what have you. So also having a behavioral health therapist or a therapist, I always think is a great resource and tool. And so those would be the places that I would start. Does that make sense? Sometimes I think I ramble and I don't make sense.
What about AA, Alcoholics Anonymous?
Oh, yeah, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. They actually have a website, www.aa.org. And I think that they actually have a 1-800 number. I have their on 1-800 number. Hold on. Said I was going to remember it and I didn't. That's horrible.
I can post it in the chat. So when I was in medical school, actually, we had a homework assignment to find a AA meeting near us and attend the meeting. And this was a very eye-opening experience. I think what was most eye-opening is that you can find an AA meeting if you are interested in, if you feel you have a problem with alcohol and you're interested in quitting. There are AA meetings everywhere. You name it, within a mile of your house, if you go to the AA website and put in your, I think it's your zip code or your address, it'll pull up all the local places. And you know, local churches, community centers, libraries, all of these places have AA meetings, and they just sort of rent out space. And they're all times of the day. So there's like 6 a.m. meetings, 8 a.m. meetings, 11 a.m. meetings, you know, late afternoon, weekend, anything that you are looking for, you can find. And sometimes some of the certain meetings draw a certain crowd. Like if you have a 7 a.m. meeting downtown, you might get people who are you know, in more kind of a white collar profession. Whereas if you have a meeting at a local church on a Wednesday at 11, you might get people who are more sort of retirees. So sometimes I have patients try out a few meetings if they're interested, because if you go to one and it's not your style of people, and that just might be the meeting you went to. And the thing about AA is that the people who are there are in all phases of reducing alcohol. Some of them are still drinking and they show up to these meetings intoxicated. Some people have been sober now for 20 years and they've left their chips and they act as sponsors to other people. So there's this wide spectrum. And sometimes it's helpful just to go, even if you have a family member who's attending, just to go to a different meeting, just to see what it feels like and what it looks like. But yeah, did you find the website there?
Yeah,
Oh, you
found the website for that. And there's also one for women. You know, I'm all about women, women of sobriety. They have a website too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I put through there and I put the phone number for AA. Yeah.
And then one of the participants sent this email, which I then, or not email, but they sent a link to the WHO, the World Health Organization's stance on alcohol. And I don't have time right now to look at this website, but I posted to all of you guys in case anyone wants to look at it later. But what the participant said was that the WHO recommends no alcohol. And I don't want to say too much, but the patient did say that they are in a field that is relevant to this topic and has knowledge on it. So feel free to look at these links later if you're interested in learning more from the WHO, or if you feel that you have a problem with alcohol or somebody you know has a problem with alcohol. These resources that Dr. Holmes just posted are good places to start. All right, any last questions here? Otherwise, I think we might wrap it up for our afternoon patients. If anyone else has one or two that they want to squeak in.
It says, what is in red wine versus white wine that makes it healthier to consume? It's supposed to be the antioxidants that are noted in the red wine that is supposed to be what's better to a higher level of antioxidants that's supposed to be beneficial versus white wine.
I think white wine also has more sugar in it, so it has more carbs, but that might be that might not be completely accurate for every wine. Somebody had recommended check out nakedwines.com. Not sure what that website is, but could be interesting.
Okay.
And then, you know, somebody had asked earlier about if there's a website where all the different alcohol contents are posted somewhere. And as we said, we don't know off the top of our heads, but I will say, you know, alcohol is regulated differently from food products. So that's why your alcohol doesn't have a food label with your carbs and your calories. Although you will notice that some drinks like ciders are actually regulated as a food item. So those will post calories on them. But you can always find this stuff online, like how many calories are in a glass of red wine, even though it's not posted on the bottle.
Yeah, I couldn't find one that I felt was reputable. I'm still looking. Yeah.
All right, I think we've reached the end then as well. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. I think we had an interesting chat. Somebody just posted something real quick. Let's see what it was before we go. Just a word here, polyphenol. I guess that's the difference between the red wines and the white wines. Red wine has that. Okay. Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something and you were entertained for 1 hour of this boring quarantine. You didn't you said you were going to reveal your favorite drink.
So my favorite drink now is Outshine. If you go to the grocery store or have it delivered, there are these Outshine popsicles. They come in strawberry, raspberry, and lime. I love to take those and let them melt and then pour a little tequila over it with a little splash of Grand Marnier and I'm board.
Wow, just don't let your son find those popsicles in your freezer.
Trust me. We buy double.
All right, well, thank you to everyone. I'll see you guys on Friday for a lecture with Dr. McConnell on sleep apnea. And I hope you enjoyed today's talk. And everyone, oh, people are writing some nice comments that they enjoyed it. Thank you. Excellent webinar. So I'm glad that we could get your mind off of COVID for an hour.
Yes.
All right, take care, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.
Dr. Tanno, don't remember to stop the recording.